Texas headed to Fort Worth to take on TCU this Saturday. Big game for the Longhorns. And College Game Day heading up north to an FCS showdown. And the NFL getting heated. Short Kings everywhere needing some help this week. This is the 1-0 Sports Show.
Texas finally 1-0, finally riding for the brand, although Tom Herman did say they were 1-0 10 times last season.
Feinbaum, I'll give him like half a point.
Dude, you like okay. Feinbaum way too much.
Yeah, all right. I'm like
I'm
the Feinbaum of this show.
By the way, that looks Ohio State. Is that an omen? Give me that Longhorn hat.
Oh man!
Hook him, baby.
All right, he's pulling the torso.
Hello, welcome in to the 1-0 Sports Show. Thanks for joining us on this cold morning. I'm Thomas Fitch, joined alongside by Robert Trevino.
Finally cold out there.
Finally cold. It's really cold.
Very cold.
Walking in today, oh my goodness. Something blew in. But while it is cold.
It is cold, but we're going to see who's hot, Thomas, as we always open the show. Who's hot?
So who's hot? FCS football. So College Game Day. It's not going to number 3 Wisconsin or Ohio State against Wisconsin. It's not going to Auburn LSU. It's going to North Dakota State, South Dakota State, battle for the Dakota marker. The number 1 and number 3 teams in the FCS facing off against each other. And personally, I'm a little bit of a North Dakota State bandwagon. They're one of those teams that, you know, occasionally they'll get a College Game Day. They're always in the FCS championship, so you can always turn that on in December and watch the Bison play, and they're a fun team to root for because they always win. So it should be exciting. Only little downside, it's on ESPN Plus, so we won't get Kirk and Chris calling the game. But it's this big time that FCS is getting College Game Day over a matchup between 2 top 10 teams and a matchup between number 3 and 13 team in the nation.
Yeah, I think it's good to go somewhere new, and you wouldn't have gotten this had Wisconsin probably won last week.
Yeah, so if Wisconsin won, it was headed to that Big Ten showdown.
Yeah,
but
I'd love to see this
the Illini.
FCS. Love to see this for the FCS.
Honestly, Wisconsin probably should have been my who's not.
Yeah.
Instead,
this should be.
But honestly, my who's not is worse than Wisconsin losing to Illinois. Worse than maybe if Texas had lost to Kansas.
Really?
Well, it's as bad. It's as bad as the Texas game against Kansas.
Okay, that's fair.
The TCU uniforms that they're going to be wearing this Saturday.
Oh my goodness!
Check these out.
Brought to you by Texas Tech University.
Wow,
I don't know where you add red into there.
I don't know what they were going. I mean, I get they were trying to do the whole like the horned frog, which by the way, there's no such thing as a horned frog. It's a horned lizard. Come on, people. Science isn't that hard. But it's the whole, you know, they shoot blood out of their eyes at their victims. Blah 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 blah. You know, it's terrible. And you know, it's one thing if they had tried to add a little bit of red somewhere. But the charcoal with the black, with the bright purple, and the bright red that's almost pink in some, like that 8 almost looks pink. It's just bad.
It looks like a bad negative.
I mean, it's fitting for like around Halloween because it's a clown uniform.
Oh, that is a clown uniform. That's a good one.
But that's who's not. So Robert, who you got?
All right, speaking of maybe a little bit of clowns, my who's hot. How about them Cowboys? You said you're going to make them your who's not until they win. Well, they apparently heard you. Gave them bulletin board material.
Yeah, who's not was almost me this week.
Destroyed the Eagles. Covered the spread, which
by a lot.
By a lot. I wanna iterate that I was the only person that picked the Cowboys.
We'll get to how you did over the whole week in a little bit.
We'll get to how I did over the whole week.
We're not good at picks on this show.
Not a great number. I was like, I think that was the only one I got right. But the Cowboys looking good. I think they're overrated. I agree with you.
Thank you.
Going when they won those 3 games, everybody freaked out.
It was fitting. I was like, it was about time. I was like, you can only clown the Cowboys for so many weeks in a row.
They're only going to lose for so often.
Yeah.
Before they win.
I had been right way too much.
I think they make the playoffs. They're a wild card team at best. I think that's their peak. They're not going to go out and win a Super Bowl. I don't think they're that kind of team. But I think they're a little better than you were giving them credit for.
That's fair.
You know, going forward, we'll see how they do.
That's fair. All right, who's not?
My who's not. Now I'm going to tear down a team that maybe, you know, I was defending the Cowboys.
Go
the
for
Lakers.
It.
The Los Angeles Lakers. Who's not? I think that this team, we've seen them. They lost to the Clippers. I think they're very overrated. I think They have a lot of pieces missing.
Yep.
I think the Clippers, while being very overrated or very generally highly rated by the media, I think they're still underrated. I think they're going to have a lot going forward. They're by far the most dominant team in LA.
And we'll talk about that in a little bit.
We'll talk about that. Yeah, a little teaser for you there. But I think the Lakers, very overrated, and I actually think LeBron James is probably not the greatest player in the world anymore. I think
agree.
that Kawhi outplayed him the other night.
I've agreed with that for a little bit.
Yep, and
a couple years.
I've been a big LeBron defender for a while, saying he's the best player in the world. But that was going to come to an end. I don't think he's the best player in the world anymore. But
That's good.
We'll see over the course of the season whether or not that's officially true.
Well, your Who's Not correlates to our next segment. So let's move on to the Feinbaum of the week. And who is it? It's not Paul Feinbaum. It's Stephen A. Smith. Roll the tape.
Somebody standing in your way and give it to me right now. Give it to me. It's the Lakers. The Lakers. LeBron James. It's about that time. LeBron James, the king. He's back.
Now, the perfect thing about this is the fact that right after he puts the Lakers over the Clippers beat the Lakers first game of the season.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, like, that game would have maybe been close and we could have had an argument, but the Clippers outclassed the Lakers every way. And you also got to remember, it's not like they have Paul George coming back.
Right.
They do have Paul George coming back.
do.
The Clippers are going to ascend. I don't think it's that close, which was funny because I think the rest of his list had a lot of merit. I like the Nuggets up there. I like the Rockets up there. But the Lakers,
It makes no sense
They
for a
haven't
team
meshed
that
together.
they have LeBron, they have AD, they have those two guys. But other than that, it's how does Kuzma fit in? You know, how does Rondo fit in? How do those guys? They don't have a guard.
No.
Other than Rondo, who's good, but he's a little old.
Yeah, he's a little past his prime. He's not Boston Celtics.
And you know, and LeBron's not at the age where he could play every single solitary position anymore. So what do you do?
Yeah, I think it's weird because he went to LA to further his media career.
Yeah.
But now he's making a push to try to win another title.
Yeah.
But he's kind of doing it not completely.
Right.
Like they have AD, that's a great asset for them to have, but I don't think they have enough to be a top contender. But they have enough talent that they might sneak in as a 7 or 8 seed.
Yeah.
For sure. But I just don't know. They're kind of a middling franchise, which is weird for a player like LeBron to be in.
Yeah. All right, next segment, Embrace Debate.
Okay.
So the first topic that we're talking about, this is from Colin Cowherd. He said, the Chiefs are out of the AFC hunt. Throw them out. They're not winning it. Throw them out. And the Pats are going to cruise to a Super Bowl. AFC is theirs.
Talk about Paul Feinbaum of the week.
He easily could have been Paul Feinbaum of the week as well.
I think so. The Pats cruising would be just because the Patriots have been so dominant this
Right.
year. That wouldn't be because the Chiefs would be out of it and there's no other team that's even good in the
Yeah.
AFC. I think the Patriots are just far and away the best team in the AFC. They're so good. But the Chiefs are not out of this. Patrick
No.
Mahomes is coming back.
He is.
And Patrick Mahomes is not built
He's practicing
entirely on
this
his legs.
week. He's literally practicing this week.
He's not built entirely on his legs either. He has a cannon for an arm. Even if he were immobile,
Put him
which
on
we
his
basically saw
knees.
him. We saw his legs not be able to work. He's throwing that ball 50 yards.
Yeah.
I think the
And they
Chiefs are very
still have
much in this.
an incredible coach. The defense is slightly improved. Honestly, kind of an Oklahoma team this year.
I think so. I think the Chiefs are going to still be the
Yeah.
only team that gives the Patriots a run for their money, though.
Yeah. So, but it's absurd for Coward to say that. So our next Embrace Debate, this came from Joel Klatt, I believe, was talking on the Coward Show, and he was talking Michigan and how Michigan has been in the shadow of Ohio State for the last 10 years, and how Michigan's last 10 years have been, you know, a 10-year span where they've underperformed has been during Ohio State's 10-year span where they have really one of their best 10-year spans in a while. And I was like, that sounds a lot like Texas. When you say Texas, one of their worst 10-year spans, while Oklahoma, one of their best 10-year spans. So who has been, we could talk last 10 or 20 years, who would you say and who would you think has been the most prestigious program in the last 20 years between Texas and Michigan?
I'll say 10 years, it's Michigan,
Yeah.
just because Texas has had just
Right.
probably their worst 10 years.
Michigan has struggled, but they're still getting to 9 and 10 win seasons.
Yes, they're getting 9-4, maybe 10-3, something like that. But you go last 20 years, it's Texas.
Texas.
Because of how dominant that decade was.
Right.
And also something that Michigan hasn't had in those 20 years, a national championship.
Right. It doesn't have a national championship. Also, in the 04 slash, the game was in 05, Texas beat Michigan.
Yeah.
Well, so I definitely agree with you there. And Michigan's problem the last 10 years is really quite simply the inability to beat Ohio State. Texas's problem has gone. Texas has beat OU even in a decade where they have underperformed. They still have a number of wins against OU when Oklahoma has come into the Red River rivalry the last 10 years with a better team, really each of those last 10 years.
Yeah.
And Texas has still won a number of those games.
Yes, this would basically be if Texas for the next, what happened last year?
Yes.
But that for 8 more
That for 8
consecutive
more
seasons,
years.
that's what Michigan's
Yes.
been going through, which I kind of feel for their
Painful.
fans. I
Yeah.
feel for their fans.
All right, last segment before we go to a break. Delete your Twitter. Reggie Miller. Oh, poor guy. Here's what he had to say during the opening night game.
Pat Beverly grew up in suburban Chicago. He led the state in scoring as a senior in high school. Went to Arkansas, yes.
He led the state of Chicago in scoring.
Illinois.
Oh, okay. About to say.
So I'm not going to lie. I have listened to this clip a lot of times. I've investigated it to try to tell, is this sarcasm? Is he messing with Reggie Miller when he goes, Chicago's a state? Because Reggie Miller, obviously says, he from Chicago, led the state in scoring.
Yeah.
And then Reggie goes, Chicago, a state?
I think that's.
I think it's sarcasm.
I think he's maybe speaking to the state of Chicago.
It's hard to tell. But the reason that he's delete your Twitter is just because all Twitter has been saying is Reggie Miller's an idiot. He doesn't know that Chicago is a city.
Yeah.
I think he knows that Chicago's a city.
I think he knows.
I think it was either a moment of not thinking, which I get, that happens, or it was him trying to be messing with Kevin Harlan, and it just backfiring on him big time.
I think that's what it is. And when you're Reggie Miller and you're Steph Curry before Steph Curry was Steph Curry,
Yep.
you get to say things like that.
You get to say, whatever you want. That's all we got for this block, but stick around. Coming up, so many more guests. Colin Post, host, coming on, TCU sports writer. Then Daniel Shee going to come on. We're going to play a little overrated and talk some World Series. And then Adam Ogburn's going to come on, make some predictions. Make sure you stick around. Welcome back into the 1-0 Sports Show. And we now welcome on sports editor for TCU 360, Colin Post. Colin, welcome on the show.
Hey, Thomas. Thanks for the call. I appreciate you having me on the show.
All right, so for the viewers who don't necessarily know what TCU 360 is, tell us a little bit about that and what you do for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So TCU 360 represents all student media at TCU. So the primary platform that comes in is our website, which you can find at tcu360.com, and that follows anything from events on campus, obviously sports, national news a little bit, and then we also have a section called Politifrog, and then we also have a small paper called The Skiff. It comes out every Wednesday, in which a couple of the main articles from the week are included in. Me specifically, I'm our sports editor, so I'm focusing obviously on TCU's Division I sports, so I'm the main beat writer for TCU football, basketball, and volleyball, and then any other sport that's covered, I'm in charge of delegating that, and then obviously being the first line of edit for those articles.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about TCU's season so far. Y'all are 3-3. Y'all went 7-6 last year. But I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I would assume that there is still a lot of trust and patience in Gary Patterson right now?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt that expectations for this season were much higher than they were for last season for many reasons. We had a lot of returning starters, notably Biletkinov Award finalist or preseason watch list, Jalen Rager at receiver, excellent running backs in Darius Anderson and Sewo Lanalua. And then we had promising quarterback candidates, and Gary Patterson has always been one who's going to find what he wants at the quarterback position. And so expectations were extremely high, and and they have been a little disappointing this year. We expected maybe to drop a game like Iowa State, but the Kansas State and SMU losses, those still hurt. But nevertheless, absolutely, Fort Worth as a whole just has always loved Gary Patterson. They have trust in who he is, and especially following last season, in which we were bottom of the Big 12 following a Kansas loss and ended up with a winning record and a bowl win. I would say, yeah, absolutely, that TCU fans still have a lot of trust in Gary this season.
And you said that you were expecting to maybe just drop one to Iowa State, weren't expecting the other two. What went wrong in those losses?
I think really the big problem is that the lack of confidence from the quarterback play, and that's mainly come from true freshman Max Duggan. And right now he's at the bottom of the Big 12 in pretty much any quarterback statistic, completing just 56% of his pass attempts. And although I would say he has shown to be the guy that we have to go with, in crunch moments, he's just not been able to put the team on his back, which is understandable from the true freshman position. But if you look at the SMU game, at the end of the game, TCU put together a drive and Duggan floated a pass way over Darius Anderson's hands to go incomplete on fourth down. It showed pretty much absolutely no poise, and a similar situation happened at Kansas State. And so that's what I would say affected us most in crunch time. But surprisingly, what the problem was in both of those games was actually defensive production, which is surprising from a defensive mind like Gary Patterson. Our safeties, especially safety in his games, gave up notable plays in both games, SMU and at Kansas State, giving up just wide open touchdowns, and so the coverage was weak and lackluster, and I think especially in the SMU game allowed the visiting team to get momentum and some life, and just got away from us. And once again, freshman quarterback is not your best option for a game-winning drive. So really both of those things, I think, were what affected us most in those losses, and I would say Gary definitely wishes he has both of those back.
Colin, TCU's coming off of 2 straight losses, both on the road. What do you want to see from the Horned Frogs as far as getting back on track, especially since they're taking on Texas at home?
Absolutely. I think, and this is something that Senator Coy McMillan talked about on Tuesday in TCU's weekly presser. I think I'd like to see TCU this week just not get caught up in what's going on. They're going on 2 straight losses. They have 3 on the season, and they're playing one of the more talked about teams in the nation on an annual basis, and right now ranked 15th in the country in Texas. I'd like to see TCU settle down, especially Duggan, and play their game. I know that this team can perform at a high level, and I think that involves several things. Our defensive line has really struggled this year, but it has talent and guys like Shamik Blackshear and Ross Blacklock on defensive tackle positions. I think they need to work to get to Ellinger, force him to make plays quickly, and then our secondary to play tight in coverage, as well as, like I said, Duggan just settling down, looking to slow the pace of the game, and force Texas to play at a slower game and not force a shootout, because Gary Patterson said on Tuesday, if it gets to a shootout, it's going to probably be bad for the Frogs because they won't be able to keep up. So I think if they do those things, that if not a win, that'll be maybe a little bit more competitive than some people are expecting this weekend.
So when you look at this game, what is something that TCU has that Texas maybe should be worried about, maybe something they're overlooking, or they could overlook? And then kind of follow up to that, who is a player that Texas should be watching for on the TCU side of the ball?
Yeah, I think those actually are two different things. So the things that they should be watching that they maybe aren't is, I think, TCU's run game. And you think about a guy like Chuba Hubbard, he's obviously a national name, but for TCU, with some of the best running back numbers in the nation, especially when you look at yards per carry, is Darius Anderson, and that he got center this offseason, and he's quicker, and he's had several explosive plays. I mean, you look at at Purdue, had almost 200 yards on the ground, and that's just something that TCU had not seen prior to this year. And then on the other hand, you have a guy like Sewell Lanalua, who can get you a third down conversion on 3rd and 4 when the defense knows exactly where it's going. But when he gets downhill, he's extremely powerful, and he's just extremely difficult to stop. And so I think because TCU's, one, not necessarily known for having a dominant run game, and two, neither of those guys are really national names despite the numbers they put up. I think maybe that Texas could overlook that, and that could be a problem for Texas if they don't work on stopping that game. And then actually, I didn't think I would have been saying this at this point in the season, but I think a surprise for Texas may be the amount of targets that Jalen Reagor gets. I mean, this season has been anything but productive as we expected for him. I mean, he only has 23 catches for under 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. But near the end of the Kansas State game, you started to see Duggan realize that he had this all-American talent running routes for him. And he gave him a couple of balls that weren't good decisions, but they were, I'm going to let the 2018 second team All-Big 12 receiver make a play. And so I would say that if Texas overlooks Reagor a little bit because of the slow start, that he could do some serious damage this weekend, especially if Duggan puts the ball up there for him to make sort of a one-on-one play.
So TCU has 5 games left after Texas. That includes Oklahoma State, Baylor, and a road trip to Norman to face Oklahoma. What are the final expectations in your mind for this TCU team that would make this at least somewhat of a successful season for them?
Absolutely. I think the first and foremost, as we've been talking about this entire morning, is just getting Duggan comfortable. Regardless of what happens this season, Duggan is the future. I mean, the other option is a graduate transfer in Alex Delton from Kansas State. Obviously, he won't be here next year. And there are other quarterbacks that show promise on the depth chart, but none have played time this season. And so really, offensive coordinator Sonny Cumbie is looking to just get Duggan comfortable, slowing down his passes, having him read options better, when to run, when to pass. And then on top of that, I think it's just getting to a bowl game. Gary Patterson has been to a bowl 18 of the 22 years that he's been at TCU. It's just in his blood, and TCU has come to expect it. And so even if that culminates in something like going 6-6 and going to the Cheez-It Bowl, I think just to keep TCU fans going and looking forward to the promise that Duggan and other young guys show for the future, I think winning 6 games, and I think they can, and making a bowl game is definitely expected for TCU this year.
All right, so last question, game prediction. What is your game prediction? The line's at -1, so it's essentially just a pick 'em. What do you think happens on Saturday?
Yeah, you guys aren't gonna like this, but I'm gonna. I think TCU's gonna. I honestly think TCU's gonna put together their best game of the year. I'm gonna go TCU over Texas in the shocker, 31-27.
Wow.
I think Ellinger has one of his worst games of the season on Saturday, but.
Wow, bold prediction. Bold prediction. We certainly hope it doesn't come true. I know you do, though. But Colin, thanks for joining us, and best of luck to you and your Horned Frogs after this weekend for the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you having me on the show. And, I hope you guys have a good weekend and go Frogs.
All right, when we come back, Daniel Shee, Adam Ogburn coming on for some more exciting segments. Make sure you go ahead and stick around. Welcome in to the 1-0 Sports Locker Room. And joining us yet again, Daniel Shee.
Can't find another person. I had to come.
Legendary guest. All right, so we're going to play a little overrated or not overrated.
Okay.
All right, so y'all ready? We're gonna talk all different leagues, not hockey, but all other leagues. All other leagues. So we're gonna start off with Patriots.
Okay.
They're 7-0.
Okay. Yeah.
But remember when the Cowboys were 3-0, and I said, who have they played? The Redskins, the Giants, and the Dolphins. You know who three of the Patriots wins are to those teams.
Yes.
2 more are to the Jets.
Yep.
They did beat the Bills, but it was a close game. So looking at this team, are they overrated or not?
Am I starting?
You can start, and remember, go ahead
as our esteemed
Patriots?
guest.
make sure go ahead and tap on the screen.
Yeah.
The Patriots are
Yes.
not. The Patriots are one of the teams in America.
So wait. First of all, are they overrated or not overrated?
No, let me finish. Just let me
Okay, I'll let you finish.
The Patriots team is one of the teams in America where you can count on them to perform at their level.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if they're playing the Bills or
Right.
the Yankees. I don't even care if the Yankees are playing.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like they can play
Bring the
anybody.
Yankees on the show.
They can play anybody in the world,
Right.
and you can expect the same amount of
Right.
you can just expect that performance. And so therefore, the Patriots will never be overrated because they never.
There it is. There it is.
Not
Got the
only
screen.
not, they will never.
Never.
be.
Can we rewrite the graphic?
Never. They will never be overrated as long as Belichick and Brady are there to lead the charge.
Okay, so
Robert?
this is the last year of that then.
Whoa.
I mean,
Whoa.
you're
The
asking
Patriots,
about right now?
the Patriots since 2003 are the best team against the spread, 60.1%. So like Thomas said,
Stats.
I agree with Thomas. They benefit from being in the AFC East, which is probably the worst division in football. If you take the Patriots out of it, those teams have been irrelevant for pretty much years. Buffalo Bills are having a nice year.
They are.
But apart from that, generally they feast on that division. But Vegas can't even get them right. So
Yeah.
they've been overperforming since 2003. 60% is insane. You would be one of the greatest bettors of all time if you betted a 60%.
So you're going not overrated?
Not overrated at all. I think,
There we
especially
go.
this year, they are looking very talented, especially adding Mohamed Sanu.
Yeah.
That's only going to make them better.
Yeah, you can go ahead and keep that graphic up. I don't think they're overrated. You know, the reason I said the Cowboys were overrated when they were 3-0 was they hadn't necessarily looked how they needed to look against those teams. Especially, what worried me was the Dolphins. It was way too close of a game when you're playing the worst team in the NFL. The Patriots are winning games by an average of 22 points this season. 22 points,
That's a
there's your
stat.
stat.
That's a stat, too.
There's your
Yeah.
stat of the day. 22 points, and that's with a 6-point win on the road against Buffalo. They're overperforming, like y'all have said. They're not overrated. Next team, let's go to the college football world.
Okay.
Alabama Crimson Tide.
Oh,
And you can make this argument saying with or without Tua. I would say assuming he'll be back at least in the next couple weeks.
okay.
Daniel, you want to start?
There's only a handful of teams in America where you can count on a day-to-day they'll just perform like they're supposed to.
Yeah.
And you might think that sounds familiar. That's exactly what Alabama is. That's exactly what the Patriots is.
So not?
So no, they're not overrated because unless they face Clemson in the national championship against a crazy good Trevor Lawrence and Dabo Sweeney, they're not going to lose.
I wouldn't say they're overrated at all. I think they're just like Daniel said, they're like the Patriots of college football. College football is very much a what have you done for me lately type of deal. After last year's embarrassing loss to Clemson, I was very wary. But so far, Alabama's just looked so good, and I think that if they matched up with Clemson today, I think they would win.
I agree with you. We can keep the knot up there. We're all agreeing
Yeah,
so
we're
far.
agreeing
This
right now.
This doesn't make necessarily for great TV. But I do agree with y'all. I think
Yeah.
we'll see what happens in the absence of Tua.
Yes.
But there's just top to bottom.
You would have to be
so many
Yeah.
weapons.
You'd have to
The
be out of your right
defense,
mind.
The offense,
This is not-
the backups.
This is not Texas fans being jealous, right?
It is. I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
It's the
Yeah.
fact that, I mean, especially, we'll see how the backup quarterback does. But, like, you look at the running back position, I mean, they can suspend, and they go to their 4-string backup, and it's like, 5-star from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's insane.
You'd have to be out of your right mind to say that either of these teams are overrated, considering not only this year, but what we've seen historically.
Yeah.
These teams are just so good. Until you beat them, you can't call them overrated.
All right, NBA
All right.
has now started.
All right.
And that A means it's time to overreact to a team's first game. But we're going to start with the Clippers. They got Kawhi. They got Paul George. They got a good supporting cast. Everybody, except for Stephen A., is saying that they are the best team in the league. What do y'all say?
Well, I think the public reaction has been they're the best team in the league, but they're no Warriors last year. They're no Warriors the year before that, where they're far and away the best team and the overall favorite. I think the Clippers, on paper, are the best team in the league, and I think so far I haven't seen enough to say, oh, well, they're clearly overrated. So right now I'm going to say no. 5 days from now, or five weeks from now, I think into the season. 5 weeks from now, we could be saying I could be singing a different tune. But I think right now the Clippers are rated pretty correctly.
Daniel?
You look at how the Clippers are built. It's based on depth and head charged by Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, who are two of the best superstars in the league. You look at how the NBA Finals ended last year. The deep depth wins.
Yep.
Golden State have no depth last year. They had depth when they've won the championship.
But
they had no depth last year because they lost all their depth. And so if you look at a team that's the favorites to win, they beat two teams convincingly, one against LeBron, one against the Warriors. Now, none of these teams are the teams that you think they were, but still, the Clippers won 2 of their first games in a dominant fashion. You cannot overrate a team if they're the favorites to win and they've been dominating the first 2 games of the season.
I'm going to have to agree with y'all yet again. Honestly, I was ready to say Clippers a little bit overrated, but then they go and put 140 points on the Warriors, who, Klay Thompson or not, are still a very good defensive team. Draymond Green, one of the best defensive players in the league, completely healthy, still playing. And so to be able to go and do that, they beat the Lakers. And again, it's 2 games in the season. Way too early to say this is a team that, best team. But I think that they are very fairly rated. They are not overrated. And I think they're definitely a team who, come June is contending for an NBA Finals appearance and championship.
All right.
So, final team. We're going to your world, the baseball world.
Yep.
Okay.
Finally.
And this team is down 2-0.
Yep.
Houston Astros.
Yep.
The She Index. Were they number 1 in the She Index?
They are four whole points above the Dodgers.
4 whole points in Daniel Shee's baseball index going into the playoffs. Here they are down 2-0 to the Nats. Are they overrated, or were they overrated this season?
No, because the Nats are vastly underrated. You cannot be overrated when you're literally the second best team technically in the league. If you're the second best team already, how can you be overrated if the only place above you is the championship team? Like that, based on logic, that does not make sense. Second of all, the Nets are just the best team in the league just because they had a horrible start, and that kind of offset everything in terms of people thinking whether they're good because they didn't win 105 games. But if they win like they were from June to September, they could have easily won over 100 games. And when they are supposed to go over 100 games, but they didn't, people underrate them a lot. And so the Nationals are vastly underrated, making the Astros kind of like, I think the Astros are caught out of, caught out of the blue a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so the Astros need to regroup, but the Astros are not overrated.
So I disagree with you. Okay, you ready to put, this is the first time we're going to do this.
Yeah, the first.
Put overrated up, we'll see if we're ready. Overrated, I'm not just going to say the Astros, I'm going to say the whole division, the whole AL. I know, you're not going to like this. Whole AL, the Astros.
That's the league, not a division.
The league.
Okay.
Well, nevertheless,
Sorry,
still.
the league.
Still.
They cruised.
Yeah.
Astros cruised. And here they meet the Nationals. And the Nationals have dominated. Garrett Cole was this guy who hasn't lost since May 22nd. Justin Verlander was this guy who's like negative .00 ERA. They have all these hitters. They've gotten blown out in 2 games.
No, I'm going to give my take first, and then we'll get your response. To quote Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I dissent. Okay, I'm going to say they are so overrated.
Yes.
Losing 12-3 in the World Series is just a structural failure on the part of the team. That's not we lost the game. That's we got flat out beat 2 games at home in the World Series to the Washington Nationals. They are overrated. I'm going based on the court of public opinion.
Okay.
Not on like I'm going
Okay,
like
go ahead,
as
just-
far
yeah.
as like what their rating is.
Speed it up so I can respond.
Okay, I'll let you
okay,
get back at him.
To respond.
To respond, yeah.
Answer this kind of
Yeah.
follow-up question. Do you think that it's the Astros being bad or the Nats just being so good? And I think I kind of know your response.
The Nats are vastly underrated. That's why.
Yeah.
That's what
I
people
do
think
agree.
the
I do
Astros are
agree.
overrated.
Okay.
But
The-
12-3 is a lot.
No, but if you look at the game, up until the 7th inning was a 2-3 game. So the Astros bullpen was the one that blew it up.
That's true.
And so
that's also part of the team, though.
But if you look at the overall team,
Braves fan, I would know that.
if you look at the overall team, the bullpen have been the weakest part of the
Right.
Astros. I've been saying that throughout the playoffs. The Yankees' worst part was the starting rotation. That's what killed them. But if you're saying the Astros cruised in the playoffs, I don't know. Playing 5 games in the ALDS doesn't look like cruising to me.
Yeah.
Playing 6 games in the championship series and got tied by DJ LeMahieu and on the top of the 9th does not seem cruising to me. So they did not cruise in AL. The Nationals, they beat the best team in the league, the Dodgers. They actually cruised past the Cardinals. So they actually cruised past the National League there.
I think that's
for the
more due to their
Nationals.
talent and the way that they played, whereas the Astros got stuck in series that they shouldn't have gotten stuck in. Period.
Well, the Yankees and the Astros are supposedly the heavyweight series that we got. So they weren't supposed to just steamroll the Yankees. They were supposed to steamroll the Rays, and the Rays put up a very good fight. The Astros have been struggling so bad. They're hitting 109 with runners in scoring position in the postseason. They're hitting 174. That's their stat of the day in the World Series with runners in scoring position. They can't win. You can't win if you're like that. If you hit under 200 with the runners in scoring position in the World Series, especially when the other team is hitting above 300 in that situation. So the Nationals are vastly good. And the Astros they underperformed, but they did not play bad. When you have an error in the World Series, that will kill you, and that's what Bergman did. They had one error, and when you play a team like Nationals in the World Series, you're gonna give up 9 runs in 3 innings.
Well, I would say if you're underperforming, that typically means that you were overrated.
Right.
And I don't think one error gives another team 9 runs.
That's fair.
That's the playoffs.
I'll say this though, Daniel, you're in your element right now.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna step back. Daniel,
all of the agreeing that we had on the
Everything
first
I
three
said-
answers was
everything
out
I
the
said,
window
Daniel's like,
on the
"You're wrong,
last
dude,"
one.
and I'm like,
yes,
I am.
it was
I
good. It was heated in
All
the
right,
locker
so
room.
How shocked were you? You've watched way more baseball than we
Okay.
have. How shocked were you when the Nationals go in and dominate Game 1 and 2 on the road?
I think I'm more surprised at how they got to Garrett Cole and Verlander.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at, the Yankee offense is fantastic.
Right.
But they expanded the zone so much throughout the series because of how good Garrett Cole and Verlander is. If you look at the Nationals, they have been way better at bats. They waited out. They waited until the Astros have to bring in their bullpen to get to the Astros, and they just waited. They just put the ball in play. They're not the Yankees. They don't try to hit home runs every single at bat. They just put the ball in play. Wait until Alex Bregman screw it up, and then when that happens, again, if you're playing in the World Series, you give up one error. That's it, because if you look at the history of the playoffs, you have to play perfect baseball. And if you don't, you're going to lose that game.
Yeah. All right. So, final question. Can the Astros find a way to come back down to going on the road?
They have to win Game 3, and
Yeah.
that's not a cliche, meaning like, oh, you can't come back there 0-3. You have to beat Anibal Sanchez, because Anibal Sanchez is the worst pitcher in their starting staff, and that's not against Anibal Sanchez. He's a terrific pitcher, but look at the starting rotation of the Nationals.
Yeah. If you can't beat him,
You
not
can't beat
beating
him.
who
You're
you're
not
gonna beat.
beating. You're not beating anybody else. And if they get to the bullpen with the Nationals don't have a bullpen except for Doolittle and Hudson. And so if they figure out a way to get to the starter early, and then force them to either bring out a Strasburg on 3 days rest or bring out the other parts of the bullpen, they're going to win Game 3. If they push it to Game 5 and 6, like I said on last week, if the Cardinals or any team against Nationals, they play till Game 5 and Game 6, you're going to exploit the lack of depth in the pitching for the Nationals, and you will win that game. But they have to win Game 3. They have to.
I think the key is for them to win Game 4. I think that they are going to win Game 3 just because they're going to be able to take advantage of the Nationals' kind of weak pitcher. But Game 4 is going to be the huge deal, because if the Astros can win that, like you said, they just take away
and
the
they're
Nationals'
back to
depth.
they're back to home
Yeah,
field
they're back at
advantage.
home.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens. We don't know what happens. What we do know, you don't want to argue with Daniel Shee when it comes to baseball. This guy knows what he's talking about. Daniel, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Still got a lot more. We got predictions. Adam Ogburn's going to make some predictions with us. College football playoff top 4. Stick around.
Want to Know Sports Show. Let's get into the best thing we saw on Twitter this week. This comes from the NFL.
From the NFL, actually two.
Okay,
Two best
two of
things.
them.
So we'll start off. Aaron Donald gets in a fight with Devontae Freeman. Little bit of this, kind of both things, little size differentials. But look at this. He's just going to pick him up like he's like a 25-pound plate and just curl him.
And this ends with
This
Devontae
is
Freeman
my
getting kicked
favorite
out.
part. Devontae Freeman.
Throwing a
Does he
punch
know
at a
that
helmet.
Aaron Donald trades with knives? And then here we have
Oh, this is just.
Puerto Rico.
Oh,
The best part,
man.
he does the Mom,
Yeah.
they're making fun of my
Oh,
height again.
that's true,
That's the
yes.
word. I mean, he walks away. It's fine. He's like, because he trucked the guys to play before, you know. But he has to go, Mom.
Yeah, well, that's spoken as a 6'3" person. Well, as a 5'8" person
As
myself.
someone who was 5'4" freshman year of high
Yes.
school, I can relate to short people. Okay, I am part of
All
both
right,
communities here,
all
Robert.
right, I don't know about that. Saying that you're 6'3" now, but
All right, yeah.
short men,
Short men.
kings.
Short kings. All right, let's get to our fantasy football start and sit for the week. Robert, who do you have starting?
Well, you know, I'm gonna start. Well, I'm gonna actually take. I forgot who I put down.
Yeah.
But you know,
There's a lot of good players.
There's
to
a lot
start
of
this
good
week.
players. Off the
Dallas
top of my
Goedert.
head, I'm gonna say Devontae Freeman, the man
Wow.
who got kicked out.
Wow.
He's on the flex. He's not predicted to do as well this week.
Yeah.
But I say you should still start him.
Okay, so I'm going to go with Chase Edmonds, backup for the Cardinals. David Johnson, they really frustrating as a David Johnson owner. They started him for one play and then pulled him out for the rest of the game. He's banged up. Even if he does play some, he's going to be limited. Chase Edmonds had a good game last week. Start him this week.
Yeah, and you took my sit. I'm going to say David Johnson, who's on my fantasy team, been a lead back all year.
Wow.
Been a huge part of my fantasy team, and all of a sudden not getting any touches with, that little bit of a tweak. And now I think you should honestly think about dropping him.
So my sit, Tyreek Hill. He's a great player. He's back from injury. However, he's playing with Matt Moore. I know there's rumors of Mahomes coming back. I think it'll be Matt Moore starting. That's just going to limit Tyreek Hill. I think he'll be open, and I think there's going to be a lot of times where you got Hill in space, and the ball will just overthrown him.
All right.
So that's that. Let's get to our college football playoff predictions real quick.
All right.
We're running out of time already. Too good of a show so far. But let's go ahead. I'm going to start. Not much of a change here. Actually, I don't know if I'm changing this at all.
Yep.
Alabama, just want to say, Robert, they've been number one since week one.
Okay. I'm going to go with
Roll Tide.
Ohio State. They have not been week one since week one.
Wow.
Second week in a row. I'm going to keep them there.
Big test for your number one this week. Number
Big test.
two, LSU Tigers, who are tested this week against Auburn. They got Alabama after their bye week.
I'm going to stick with Alabama number two.
Yeah.
I still like the Tide. After Ohio State, I like Ohio State's resume just a little bit more.
Yeah, I do agree with you. Ohio State's a good team. I just want to see how they can compete against Wisconsin before I make any other predictions about them.
Oklahoma's still looking good. I thought they'd have a little bit of a letdown last week against West Virginia. Not so.
Yeah.
Oklahoma's still looking
I
great.
was tempted to put Oklahoma in here because they look so good against West Virginia. I'm starting to really believe in this team. However, we're still going to go with Clemson for this week. Again, Clemson at this point can just cruise to the ACC title game and really cruise to the college football playoff, where I think
agree
they'll
with you.
lose in the first round.
I agree with you, and I'll just stick them right there, too, at number 4.
All right, that's it, but not for the whole show. So stick around. Adam Ogburn coming up next. We're going to make all the college football spread predictions and one NFL.
Welcome back into the One and O Sports Show. You've been hearing his name all episode, but
All
he's finally
episode.
here. Adam Ogburn to make some picks. Thanks for joining us,
Yeah.
Adam.
Hey, thank you for having me, guys.
All right, so before we get into the picks, let's recap how we did last week.
Not great for either.
I went 2-8.
Yeah, you did worse than
So,
I did.
yes.
That was my who's not was going to be me until I saw your record, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I was really the true who's not. So
Yeah.
let's get right into it. Oklahoma, 23.5-point favorites. They go to Manhattan to take on Kansas State in the Little Apple. Who do you got?
I got Kansas State. They've got the #1 scoring defense in the Big 12. So I think with the way they run the ball, I think they can slow down the game enough to keep it within 24 points. I take K-State with the points.
I agree. I think OU wins big, but not quite big enough to cover the spread.
I'm going to take Oklahoma here. I think they handle business by 23.5.
I think if they win big, it looks good for them, and maybe they find their way onto this board next week. All right, number 6, Penn State, 6.5-point favorites at Michigan State. Adam?
I like Penn State. I don't trust Michigan
Wow.
State's offense. I don't trust Brian Lewerke.
I don't either. I think Penn State will definitely win this by at least a touchdown.
Trap game for Penn State, Michigan State. I know they don't have an offense. They have a great defense. Michigan State, they won't win, but they'll cover.
Big 12 matchup here. Number 23, Iowa State, 10.5-point favorites at home against Oklahoma State. Who do you have?
I've got the Cyclones. It's tough to travel up to Ames. Brock Purdy's been hitting his stride, and Breece Hall, freshman running back, he's been going off. So Cyclones, and they'll cover.
I do agree. Iowa State is hitting their stride. Brock Purdy playing really good right now. 10.5, just a little bit too much for me to say. I think Iowa State, honestly, probably wins by 10, but I don't think 10.5 is too much.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma State's going to surprise a little bit in names. I got Oklahoma State here.
All right, number 11, Oregon, 14.5 points, favorites against fighting Mike Leach's Washington State. Adam, who do you have?
Well, Oregon, they came back. They scored a big one against Washington last week. And Washington State, this is a team that gave up 67 points to UCLA. So now you have an actual, Heisman contender. Maybe not Heisman contender, but Justin Herbert coming in.
He's a good quarterback.
Yeah, Oregon puts up a lot of points, and they win big.
Yeah, I like Oregon here. I think Washington State's kind of out of the playoff discussion, and as we see, they kind of have a little bit of a quit after they're out of that.
Good picks. Washington State, their defense, you mentioned it, terrible. Oregon's going to go off, and I think they'll win by about 20.
All right, here's a pure even matchup.
Pure
here.
even. First
Notre
one
Dame.
of the 1-0 Sports Show. This is big.
This is a true pick 'em. Notre Dame at Michigan. Who do you have?
Well, Michigan, under Jim Harbaugh, they always lose to top 10 teams. They're 1-10, and I think they go to 1-11 this week. I think the Fighting Irish come in, and with their running game, they take down the Wolverines.
Look, y'all, I hate any time I have to pick about anything about Michigan because I picked them. They were there. I picked them against Wisconsin. Then when they played Iowa, I picked Iowa. And I don't know what to pick with Michigan. But I think Notre Dame is a better team, so I'm going to go with Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think Michigan could win this game. I just was so impressed by the way Notre Dame played Georgia. I think they're going to win this one.
All right, number 3, Ohio State against number 13, Wisconsin. Would have been probably a battle of 2 top 10, maybe even top 5 teams. Wisconsin loses to Illinois. Ohio State, 14.5-point favorites. Adam, do they cover?
I think Wisconsin's loss last week caused the line to be a little bit of an overreaction. Wisconsin still got the #1 defense in the nation, and even though Jack Cohn's a little bit questionable as a quarterback, I think Jonathan Taylor makes enough plays, runs enough clock to keep this game within 14.5 points.
Yep, lines are set by public opinion. I think public opinion shifted too much towards Ohio State. I'm going to take Wisconsin.
Yeah, this almost feels like a sucker pick. 14.5 for a good Wisconsin team. Too easy, Wisconsin.
All right, this is what should have been the College Game Day game. Number 2, LSU.
Hey,
11
don't go talking about the Bison.
FCS, okay.
My Bison?
Number 2, LSU, 11-point favorites at home against number 9, Auburn. Who do y'all got?
This LSU offense has been explosive this year with Joe Burrow. I think for Bo Nix, it's going to be really tough for a freshman quarterback to go into Death Valley and succeed. So I think it'll be closer a while, but I think LSU pulls away and wins about 2 touchdowns late, so they'll cover.
Auburn, no chance in this game. However, 11 points, just a little too much. It's not Death Valley at night. It's Death Valley in the afternoon. So Auburn, they'll cover, but they won't win.
Yeah, I think it'll be what happened last week where I thought that was too big of a spread. I think LSU's going to cover here, though.
All right, so this is the College Game Day game.
Okay.
Number 1, North Dakota State against number 3, South Dakota State, obviously in the FCS rankings. 4.5-point favorite for the Bison. Adam, who do you have?
North Dakota State, they've won 7 national championships this decade. They're basically like the FCS Alabama. Don't pick against them, Bison.
South Dakota State's got College Game Day on their side. I'm going to pick them for the fun of it.
North Dakota State, they're too good. They're a powerhouse. Go Bison.
All right, this is the Texas Longhorn game, as we always call it. Number 15, Texas,
That is what it's called.
1.5-point favorite at TCU. Who do y'all have?
Texas is going to make this nervy, but Sam Ehlinger makes enough plays for the Longhorns to pull it out in the end.
Texas wins, they cover.
Texas wins, they cover.
All right, last game, Sunday Night Football. Packers, 4-point favorites at the Chiefs. Almost definite that Patrick Mahomes won't be starting. Who do y'all have?
Banged up Mahomes, so Matt Moore can't keep up with Aaron Rodgers and his Packers offense. Packers win and cover.
Yeah, I think this is Patrick Ewing theory. I think the backup for the Chiefs is going to take it home.
Wow.
I'm taking the Chiefs here.
So you're thinking it's Matt Moore season.
I
agree.
is.
And it's Matt Moore season. You know what that means? Packers are going to win.
Oh, man. Do they cover?
The Packers cover.
Okay,
Packers cover.
okay.
All right, that's all we got for you. Adam, thanks for joining us. But make sure, at 11 o'clock today, doubleheader action, Texas Countdown, live on Twitter, live on YouTube. Make sure you check it out. Will Bazarski's going to be there. I will be there. Christine Taylor's going to be there. James Grant's going to be there. He's going to be there.
Live on Speedway.
Jake
So
Harmon's
be there
going to be
physically.
there. Live on Speedway. Make sure you check it out. Thanks for joining us on your Friday morning.